The Maasai Mara stretches across the horizon like an ancient tapestry woven from dust, grass, and quiet brutality. It is a place where survival is written in the tracks pressed into the earth, where every sunrise brings both promise and danger. For centuries, this vast landscape has shaped the rise and fall of predators whose stories rarely travel beyond the savannah. Yet, among all the lions who ruled these plains, one would rise to global recognition, a lion who never asked for fame, never sought a crown, but became a legend regardless. Long before his name spread across continents, the Mara was already a stage of relentless conflict. Coalitions of males battled for territory with a ferocity that defined their world. Dominance was temporary, defeat was eventual. Every reign carried an expiration date the moment it began. The Mara was not a kingdom of peace, but a battlefield of shifting borders where strength decided lineage, and weakness meant disappearance. The lions who survived here were shaped by constant struggle. Their authority was tested by rival males, prowling hyenas, drought, and disease. For them, power was fragile, always borrowed from the forces of nature and easily reclaimed by them. The Mara did not protect its kings, it challenged them. Only a few ever left a trace. Into this harsh world, around 2008, a young male lion would emerge. He was not born different. He did not carry an obvious mark of destiny. He began life as any other cub in the Mara, vulnerable, dependent, and invisible to the wider world. Yet the land he was born into had a way of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary, sculpting legends through hardship and conflict. The story of this lion would unfold not because he sought greatness, but because the Mara pushed him to survive in ways that would one day define him. His rise would not be heroic in the traditional sense. It would be forged through aggression, unpredictability, and endurance. His legacy would not come from gentle leadership, but from raw defiance against the inevitable decline that every lion eventually faces. Before the world knew his name, before his image circulated across the globe, the Mara was already preparing him. The winds, the rival males, the unforgiving rhythm of nature, all were shaping the lion who would later be called Scarface. A lion who would become the most recognized symbol of the Mara's beauty and brutality, and whose life would echo far beyond the grasslands where it began. By the time the young male reached adolescence, the Mara was already shifting. Rival coalitions moved like storms across the plains, seeking new pride lands to conquer. In this landscape of uncertainty, alliances were not a luxury, they were a necessity. And it was in this turbulent environment that four young males formed a bond that would reshape the territorial map of the region. These males would become known as the Four Musketeers: Scarface, Scipio, Morani, and Hunter. At the time, none of them carried the names that would later define their identities. They were simply four brothers growing into maturity, learning the rules of dominance through observation and instinct. Survival demanded cooperation. Alone, any one of them would struggle to claim and hold territory. Together, they represented a force capable of challenging established coalitions. In the early years, their partnership was a story of parallel growth. They developed strength, coordination, and the confidence required to confront older, more experienced males. Their hunts were clumsy at first, their territorial displays uncertain, but their bond strengthened with every conflict they faced. The Mara rewarded unity, and these four lions embraced it completely. Their rise to power began gradually. They moved across disputed territories, testing boundaries and assessing weaknesses. They entered areas held by aging coalitions, probing for vulnerabilities. Each minor victory increased their confidence. Each confrontation sharpened their instincts. As they grew stronger, they became more ambitious. The Four Musketeers eventually seized control of a significant area of the Maasai Mara. The takeover was not a single dramatic event, but a series of calculated pushes and relentless pressure. Older males were forced out, cubs were eliminated, and resident females were absorbed into the expanding domain. These events were brutal but typical of lion politics, where lineage is secured only through dominance. Among the four, Scarface began to reveal traits that made him stand out. He was aggressive in ways that both benefited and endangered the coalition. He pushed boundaries quickly, sometimes recklessly, and engaged in fights that others might have avoided. His unpredictable nature made him both a formidable ally and a source of tension. Yet his brothers supported him, and together they compensated for one another's weaknesses. As their reputation spread among guides, researchers, and photographers, the coalition became a recognized force in the region. Their presence influenced the movements of countless animals. Their roars carried across the plains with the confidence of young rulers testing the limits of their kingdom. The musketeers brought stability to the prides under their control, but that stability was always fragile, built upon the delicate balance of power that defined every lion coalition. Their success attracted attention not only from rival lions but also from humans. Wildlife enthusiasts and conservationists documented their rise, unwittingly preserving the early chapters of a story that would later captivate global audiences. Still, at this stage, Scarface was simply one member of a powerful group, a promising male with fierce determination and a growing reputation. No one could have predicted how dramatically his path would diverge from those of his brothers. No one could have foreseen the moment that would transform him from a dominant young male into a figure of worldwide fascination. That moment was approaching, the moment when a single injury would mark him forever, shifting his story from that of a strong coalition member to that of an unmistakable, unparalleled icon of the wild. The moment that would define Scarface's identity arrived abruptly in 2012. Until then, he had been a powerful young male within a successful coalition, known locally but not yet recognized beyond the Mara. Everything changed during a territorial confrontation that year, when he sustained the injury that would alter both his appearance and the course of his life. The exact details of the altercation remain uncertain, as is often the case in the wild. Some accounts suggest a clash with rival males, others point to the possibility of conflict within the coalition or an encounter with a buffalo. What is certain is that the injury was severe. A deep wound opened above his right eye, slicing downward toward the bridge of his nose. In most lions, such wounds eventually heal, leaving only faint traces of past battles. But this one did not. The gash left his eye partially closed and created the permanent, unmistakable scar that earned him the name Scarface. The wound altered more than his appearance. It changed how he was perceived, both by other lions and by the growing number of observers who followed the musketeers. The scar gave him a fierce, intimidating look that amplified his unpredictable nature. It made him stand out in every encounter, turning him from one dominant male among many into a symbol of raw survival. Photographers took notice almost immediately. The Mara was a magnet for wildlife enthusiasts, and a lion with such a distinct appearance quickly became a sought-after subject. Images of him began circulating online, shared across forums, blogs, and social media platforms. His likeness appeared in documentaries, tourist photographs, and conservation reports. With each new image, his reputation spread a little further, reaching people far removed from the Savannah he called home. The scar did not heal cleanly. At times it reopened, causing swelling and infections. His partially closed eye gave him a lopsided, intense expression that seemed to reveal the harshness of his life. Yet, despite the challenges the injury created, Scarface continued to push forward with the same aggression and determination that had always defined him. He fought, patrolled, and defended territory as if unaware, or uncaring, of the pain that lingered. As the four musketeers solidified their dominance, Scarface's iconic appearance helped cement the coalition's fame. Guides pointed him out to visitors with a mix of awe and caution. Researchers documented his movements with increasing interest, recognizing that his story was becoming something rare, a narrative shaped not only by natural events but also by global attention. Few lions ever achieve such recognition, even fewer do so while still alive. The world's fascination, however, did not change the reality of life in the Mara. Scarface remained a lion operating under the same ruthless rules as any other. The scar did not grant him immunity from rival males or environmental challenges. It simply made him more visible. And with that visibility came a new layer of myth-making, a perception that he was more dangerous, more resilient, more emblematic of the wild than his peers. What began as a painful injury became the defining feature of his existence. It marked the start of his transformation from a powerful young king into a living symbol of the Mara's unforgiving nature. And as his fame grew, so did the pressures and conflicts that would push him deeper into the role of a feared, admired, and ultimately tragic figure. As the Four Musketeers entered the height of their dominance, the Mara underwent one of its most distinct periods of territorial stability. The coalition controlled the vast expanse of prime land, its pride secure under the constant patrols of four powerful males. Yet within this stability lay an undercurrent of volatility, much of it driven by Scarface himself. This scar had become both a physical mark and an emblem of his nature, unyielding, unpredictable, and forged by conflict. The Musketeers' rule extended across multiple prides, giving them access to a wide hunting range and a steady lineage of offspring. With each passing season, they reaffirmed their authority through continuous patrols, scent markings, and the thunderous roars that echoed across the plains at dusk. Their presence shaped the behavior of countless animals. Hyena clans skirted their borders with caution, and rival male lions avoided direct engagements unless absolutely necessary. For a time, the coalition represented the kind of supremacy that few coalitions ever achieve. Within this dominance, Scarface gained a reputation as the most aggressive and confrontational of the four. Guides and researchers frequently noted his willingness to initiate fights, even when he was injured or outnumbered. His confrontations often left him with fresh wounds, reopening his old scar or deepening the damage around his eye. Despite this, he persisted, driven by an instinctive defiance that seemed to override the logic of self-preservation. Several incidents during these years illustrate the contradictions of Scarface's reign. On multiple occasions, he engaged rival coalitions without waiting for the support of his brothers. Such behavior placed him at significant risk, yet it also reinforced the coalition's feared reputation. His aggression acted as both a deterrent and a vulnerability, strengthening their claim while exposing him to injuries that accumulated over time. Unlike many dominant males, Scarface also demonstrated an unusual tolerance for proximity to humans. Researchers sometimes observed him resting near roads or approaching safari vehicles with a calm indifference. This trait made him more accessible to photographers, further fueling his fame. Yet it also exposed him to dangers that other lions avoided, including accidental conflicts and heightened stress from constant attention. Throughout these years, the Musketeers faced numerous challenges that tested their unity. Rival males encroached on their borders, particularly as new coalitions matured. Buffalo herds posed threats during hunts, and changes in prey migration sometimes forced the lions to travel long distances in search of food. Within the coalition itself, dominant shifts occurred as each brother developed differently. Sikio grew into a strong enforcer, Morani became known for his reliability, and Hunter displayed a mix of aggression and restraint. Scarface, however, remained the coalition's wild card. His behavior fluctuated between calculated territorial defense and reckless engagement. At times, his brothers intervened to pull him away from conflicts he seemed determined to pursue. Their loyalty helped preserve his life through situations that might have ended it prematurely. Together, they formed a balance that allowed the coalition to thrive despite the challenges of their environment. Yet this period of dominance carried the seeds of its own decline. The same traits that made Scarface iconic, his defiance, his intensity, his relentless drive, began to wear down his physical resilience. The wound around his end never fully healed. Infections periodically worsened, causing swelling, discomfort, and progressive damage. His gait occasionally reflected the cumulative impact of past injuries. Although still formidable, he showed signs of the toll exacted by years of combat. Despite these signs, Scarface continued pushing forward with undiminished determination. He moved through the grasslands with the authority of a male who understood both his status and the precariousness of holding it. His story during these years was not one of steady triumph, but of continuous struggle intertwined with fame. His name spread across the world, yet the pressures of his environment remained unchanged. The Mara demanded strength every day, and Scarface answered with a mixture of courage and self-destructive persistence. As the musketeers aged, their reign began to shift from ascension to preservation. The threats grew more frequent, the rivals stronger, and the brothers' unity more crucial. Scarface's shadowed reign, defined by power and consequence, approached its turning point. The world saw a lion of unparalleled presence, but within the Mara, the forces that built him were preparing to challenge him more fiercely than ever before. As the years passed, the cost of Scarface's battles began to show in ways that even his fierce determination could not conceal. The once youthful male who charged into conflicts with unrestrained force now moved with a slower, heavier stride. The scar that made him a global icon had also become a permanent burden, and the accumulated damage around his right arm marked the beginning of his long descent. His declining eyesight affected his depth perception, especially during hunts or confrontations. While he compensated with experience and instinct, the impairment made certain movements imprecise. Observers noted that his approach to threats grew more cautious, though the underlying aggression still surfaced whenever his authority was challenged. The conflict between his diminishing body and his undiminished will created a tension that defined his final years as a dominant male. The coalition itself faced similar pressures. As Scarface and his brothers aged, rival males recognized opportunities. Younger coalitions pushed at the borders, probing for weaknesses in the musketeers' defenses. Fights that once ended quickly now dragged on, as the brothers struggled against the strength and endurance of fresher opponents. The balance of power began to shift, not suddenly, but through accumulated losses of territory, injuries, and exhaustion. Scarface relied increasingly on his brothers for territorial defense. Sitio, Morani, and Hunter shouldered heavier burdens as Scarface's health fluctuated. At times, he separated from the group for days, seeking rest or nursing injuries in secluded areas. Although such separations are not uncommon among older males, Scarface's absences hinted at deeper struggles. When he rejoined the coalition, his physical presence was clearly diminished, but his determination remained intact. The environmental pressures of the Mara intensified the decline. Drought cycles affected prey availability, requiring longer patrols and more effort to secure food. The scarcity strained older lions disproportionately, as younger rivals adapted more easily to the demanding conditions. Scarface often arrived late to kills, eating only after his brothers had already fed, or withdrawing early due to discomfort from his lingering wounds. During this period, Scarface's fame among humans continued to grow, creating a poignant contrast between global fascination and his deteriorating state. Tourists traveled great distances hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Photographers documented every stage of his decline, capturing images that revealed both his enduring presence and the vulnerability that now defined him. Conservationists monitored his health closely, ensuring that any interventions followed strict regulations meant to preserve natural processes. Despite his weakening condition, Scarface still projected an aura of authority. Even when resting, his posture carried the weight of years spent defending territory and offspring. His brothers often remained near him, their loyalty a testament to a lifetime of shared battles. The coalition that once expanded through aggression now existed in a state of fragile preservation, united by experience rather than youthful strength. Scarface's decline followed the rhythm of a classical tragedy. The traits that once propelled him to greatness, his aggression, his relentlessness, his refusal to retreat, now accelerated his physical deterioration. The Mara, indifferent to reputation, continued to test him with the same forces that had shaped his rise. Time, rival coalitions, and the cumulative toll of past injuries created an inevitability that no lion can escape. In the end, Scarface's fall was not sudden or dramatic. It unfolded slowly, through countless small moments that eroded his former dominance. The king who once commanded fear and respect across the plains now faced the one adversary that no amount of strength or defiance could overcome: the passage of time. The story of his decline was not a defeat, but the final act of a life lived with absolute intensity, shaped entirely by the unforgiving nature of the land that made him a legend. By early 2021, Scarface's condition had become unmistakably fragile. His body, once defined by power, now carried the unmistakable marks of age and accumulated injuries. His movements slowed into a deliberate rhythm, each step reflecting a lifetime of battles and the physical toll they had taken. The once bright intensity in his remaining eye had softened, signaling a lion who had endured far more than most of his kind ever would. Yet even in this weakened state, he remained a figure of extraordinary presence. In his final months, Scarface lived mostly on the outskirts of his former territories. His brothers had long taken on the responsibilities of defending the prides they once controlled together. Although Scarface occasionally rejoined them, these reunions were brief. His energy waned quickly, and he spent increasing amounts of time resting in shaded areas or moving through quieter sections of the Mara, avoiding unnecessary conflict. The harsh demands of dominance had passed beyond his reach, and he seemed to understand this instinctively. Despite his retreat from territorial struggles, Scarface continued to draw attention from guides and researchers. They monitored his decline with a mixture of respect and concern, documenting the final stages of a lion who had become perhaps the most recognized symbol of the Maasai Mara. Photographs from this period show a male who was undeniably weakened, yet still carried the unmistakable bearing of the icon he had become. On June 10, 2021, the Mara Predator Conservation Program observed Scarface for the last time. He was found lying beneath a tree, resting in a calm, shaded area. There were no signs of injury from recent conflict, no indications that he had been driven out violently or wounded in a fight. Instead, he appeared to have succumbed to natural causes, an outcome rare for male lions, who often meet their end through territorial battles or confrontations with younger rivals. His death was peaceful, an unexpected grace in a life defined by struggle. At approximately 13 years old, he had lived far longer than most wild male lions, whose lifespans are typically cut short by competition. The endurance that carried him through countless battles also carried him to an age few reach, allowing him a quiet end rather than a violent one. News of his passing spread quickly around the world. Tributes emerged across social platforms, from wildlife photographers, conservationists, and ordinary people who had been moved by his story. Scarface's death marked the conclusion of a life that had captivated millions, not because he sought attention, but because his existence embodied the raw, unforgiving, and profoundly compelling reality of the natural world. He left the Mara without ceremony, without the roar of a final battle, and without witness from those who had documented his life. His final moment belonged only to the land that shaped him, a silent departure befitting a lion whose legacy would continue long after his footprints faded from the dust. In the days following Scarface's death, the Mara remained unchanged on the surface. The sun continued its slow rise over the plains, the herds continued their migrations, and the cycles of life and death moved forward without pause. Yet among those who knew his story, there was a sense that something significant had passed. Scarface had lived and died as any lion does, shaped entirely by nature, but his presence had extended far beyond the boundaries of the grasslands he ruled. During his lifetime, countless images of Scarface traveled the world. Photographers captured him in moments of strength, wounds, exhaustion, and calm. Each photograph revealed a different layer of his existence, creating a visual record unparalleled among wild lions. Through these images, people who had never set foot in Africa came to know him. His half-closed eye, the scar that defined his face, and his powerful yet withered frame became symbols recognized across continents. Scarface's legacy grew even larger after his passing. His story came to represent more than the life of a single lion. It reflected the complexity of the wild, a place where beauty and violence are inseparable, where survival demands both courage and sacrifice. He became a reminder of the fragile balance that governs the natural world, a balance shaped not by human ideals but by ancient instincts and relentless conditions. For conservationists, Scarface brought renewed attention to the lives of wild lions and the challenges they face. For travelers and guides, he became part of the living history of the Mara. And for millions who encountered his story from afar, he embodied the essence of the untamed world, resilient, scarred, majestic, and mortal. Although the Mara has produced many powerful lions, few have left such a lasting mark. Scarface's life, shaped by conflict and endurance, became a narrative that outlived him. His legend continues not because he sought greatness, but because he survived long enough, fought fiercely enough, and endured visibly enough to become a symbol larger than himself. His reign is over, but his story remains, carried not by roars across the savannah, but by memory, image, and the enduring truth of a life lived in full against the wild.